Hi, welcome to Podlygamists, the Sister Wives Rewatch podcast.
Sister Wives is a reality show centered on a Mormon polygamous family originating in Lehi, Utah. Over 12 years and 16 seasons, TLC's longest-running reality show tells the story of Kody Brown and his 4 wives, Mary, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, and their journey as spouses and parents living plural marriage in the public eye. As superfans, we have watched the family as they grow and overcome challenges, endure numerous moves, face loss, and celebrate all the moments in between. We love the Brown family, and fresh off some major changes following season 16, we decided to go back to the beginning and embark on the ultimate rewatch so that we could see the early days with fresh eyes and try to draw connections between the Brown family of 2010 and where we are today. I'm Samantha Kaiser.
And I'm Haley Graff.
And this is Podlygamists, Season 1, Episode 9.
Well, this was a good one. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be tough to narrow down all the many just little nuggets of talking points throughout that were just sprinkled so generously throughout this episode.
This is probably the most content-heavy episode we've had thus far.
I'd say so. I mean, and I didn't expect anything out of it, to be honest. So maybe that's what my expectations were far exceeded. So this episode is simply titled The Sister Wives Honeymoon Special. It aired November 21st of 2010. And we got a long summary compared to our one-liners from TLC. So Kody and his new wife Robyn are off on their honeymoon, spending time surfing and visiting a nearby zoo. Mary, Janelle, and Christine stay back home with the kids, but will they have a hard time coping while Kody is away? That seems like a leading question.
Mm-hmm.
I love that they made sure that they mentioned the zoo.
Yeah, the zoo seemed like that was the important part of this episode.
I mean, it wasn't, don't get me wrong, almost every minute of this was action-packed, but...
Oh, for sure. They were talking about the tradition of short periods of time for courting new wives because of Kody and Robyn's long-ass courtship of 10 months. Usually it's apparently 60 to 90 days.
That's a little concerning. But, I mean...
How do you know after 60 days? Like, this is forever.
In addition to the fact that this isn't, like, the home front of, where we landed in the New World, there's 12 people to choose from. Like, this is like modern times. Yeah.
Very solid point.
Yeah, it's just like, that's impossible to wrap your head around. The emotional, like, not emotional, but like, the roller coaster you go on with meeting someone when you have your first impression. And then you're like, oh, this is my second impression. And then, like, way down the line, like 14 impressions later, you maybe feel like you finally have a good grasp on this person as a whole. Like,
right.
It's just, and I remember in therapy at one point, I can't remember what the context was, but my therapist, our mutual therapist, that it takes 3 years, whatever, I don't know where the it takes 3 years to really know somebody. And I'm not saying you have to date for 3 years, whatever. I mean, like, people make it work on it.
It's probably a safer choice for you to date that long before making a very serious commitment.
A tenth of that amount of time is 30 days. I don't know, 100th. I don't know how that math works. I guess I'm not going to pretend to know what that math is, but it's a much smaller amount of time. They're not 30 to 60 days. And they are so freaking horny, sitting on their couch and looking and kind of like innuendoing about like what they've been up to, and it's just like,
we can do more now. Like we couldn't do before.
Oh, giddy, and they're just like sitting on their little couch, like like laughing with each other. And Robyn's polo looks like it's from Limited Too, and it's so homely. Her like puff sleeve polo that she's wearing looks like it's maybe made for a real girl, but again, different time. Just to reflect on that quick. But they did kind of talk about courtship, or at least I went on like a kind of a notes tangent about courtship and like what it means in polygamy when you already have some wives. Did you pick up on any of that or notes on that?
Well, the only thing I wrote is that it's the shorter time span for it because of how hard it is on the other wives. So I didn't go into like much detail in my notes, at least, but they just were
Yeah.
saying that it's better to keep it short so you're not like extending the suffering of your other wives watching you date someone new.
That's kind of, yeah, that's like, they were all kind of like talking about how, or they were talking about how it's like respectful of the other wives to court with intention, basically, because, and I never like, I guess that I never like made that full circle like connection to like, if he's having a whole bunch of long courtships with these other women and not getting engaged and married, that's just cheating. But you know what I mean? Like, if there's no, they have to really prove that there's a lot of intention to validate this like relationship. Otherwise, it's just, of course, the wives are like
stepping out on your wives.
Yeah,
then.
exactly. Like even if it's just emotional because they're whatever. But like, I just kind of like wrote that out. Like, this clicks now. Like we talk about their long courtship and all this stuff, but it's like, yeah, I mean, they gotta like prove that this is legit, that he's doing this for the right reasons and not just to like have some flirty time with a bunch of ladies on the side. I don't know.
Right.
That was, it made it.
It is interesting to think of it that way.
Yeah.
But still, I feel like that 60 to 90 day mark, I mean, like, have you even, like, farted in front of each other yet? Like,
Yeah, they definitely have not. The way they are, oh my.
Every 2 months.
It's all cute. It's all cute right now. Everything about everything they're doing is just cuteness, and that is where they're at, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's talking about way later, she talks about, you get to brush your teeth together, and it's like, gag, like, give me a break.
I know, I wrote and I underlined, and I was like, definitely newlyweds.
Yeah, or newly dating. Like, I'm just like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everything is just...
You can just picture them, like booty bumping and
good morning!
Russian and, like, nudging the little glances in the air. It's just like, oh my god.
We shared bed last night.
Nauseating. Oh my god.
I'm like, okay, cool, good. Glad you guys are happy.
I mean, I am happy for Robyn, I should say specifically, but man, yeah, they're just so sickly sweet. It's just like,
yeah.
They get into the length of the honeymoon, right? Is that what you got coming up next here?
Yeah, because like the other wives, so I mean, they're all going to do like a camp out kind of
road trip
together, and that they're kind of struggling because he's going on an 11-day honeymoon with Robyn.
And he has how many kids? 18 kids? Or where are we at with kids right now? I keep forgetting. 16 kids?
16, I think.
With Robyn's.
Yeah.
3 wives and 16 kids at home, and he takes an 11-day honeymoon to California.
And Janelle, of all people, is pissed.
She's not pissed. She is pissed. She's saying she's mad. She says, and I was angry. And like as much as I wouldn't have been so, and when they described their own honeymoons, how it was a few days of road tripping or whatever, it's like, yeah, that seems a little unequal,
excessive.
And like, I guess they kind of jump around. This topic kind of keeps coming back like throughout the episode, but maybe make more sense if we just kind of like talk about it all.
Yeah, I think
continuously now, because they get into later how first of all they're all pretty much pissed. Janelle's not answering his phone calls. Mary, we hear a phone call with Mary that's pretty like tough to listen to. She's definitely like upset, if not giving him the cold shoulder. She's like pretty genuinely upset, it sounds like, on the phone.
I mean, just letting him know how much she misses him, and then he's like, okay, I gotta go, and she's like, already? Like, so soon?
Yeah.
You know, like, just not feeling like that 5-minute call was enough.
And he's like trying to be like, remember we were talking about our dreams? Remember this? He's like really trying to like lift her spirits, but it's so like, he's so not on her level at all that he's just trying to quick on this phone call, like, oh, gotta make this phone call like worthwhile. We need to get your spirits up so I can move on to the next call and get everybody like keep everybody happy while I'm on my 11-day honeymoon. And it's just like, it was just like so, it sounded so like teen. Do Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
what's wrong? Like, this guy just trying to, like, doesn't get it, and the girl's just like, nothing. Like, this whole,
You're like, where they keep nudging. I'm gonna keep nudging
yeah,
him until you tell me what's wrong.
yeah. And it's just like, they're just not gonna meet. Because, like,
Hmm.
I don't know. That was interesting. Janelle saying took 5 days to answer his phone call.
She called herself. She was like, I'm illogically angry.
And but then later she says that, and like I mean, is ignoring phone calls mature? No, like that feels a little bit like trying to manipulate. Like, I'm gonna let you know how mad I am. I'm not even gonna answer your dang phone calls. And I feel like that's
Right.
probably not characteristic of her. So that probably really did send a message to him.
I feel like it had to have.
But then apparently, and I wish I would have heard this phone call. He had all the right things to say when they did get on the phone, which I thought was like, and she seemed mostly placated by it, like just
Pretty
like,
good with. And that's the second time she's made a comment like that, because I remember when they were I think it was when they were taste testing the cake,
mm,
and she had said how she was initially like kind of upset with him spending so much time courting, and she's like, but then we talked about it and he said all the right things, and I'm like, what is he saying to you
dying
that
to know.
yeah.
They she does, but the thing is, again, my like love for Janelle is bottomless. She later says um that she still, when she thinks about that whole situation, the 11-day honeymoon, she still gets a little angry. And she goes, so maybe I'm not, some part of me is not fully processed that or over that, and I haven't is gotten over it as much as I thought or whatever. And I'm like, so self-aware, Janelle. You are a queen of the people. If you're out there, just know that you have a number one fan.
Haley is a Janelle,
I'm a
so
Janelle.
you guys are on the same wavelength.
I'm a Janelle, but the more I watch Christine, I start to turn maybe a tiny bit. Like, she's big and bold and out there, but like some of her like cut to the chase, like, this is what I'm feeling, this is what my thought is. I'm like, I can understand that as well.
I think just anytime there's like they're acting like pretty assertive, that's very in line with you.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't have time for bullshit. So I mean,
I don't even like consciously feel that way. It's just like, I'm like, this is what we need to address. And people at work, emails and stuff, they're like, hi, how are you? How was your weekend? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, your quizzes are ready. Send. I just don't.
I don't have anything else to say here.
I don't care about this, but
That's funny because you would get along, like you'd probably do really well working in Germany because like my friend's mom in Germany is talked about she worked with an American company like in travel, and she was like, every time we talk to the Americans I have to do a phone call and be like, hi, how are you? And she goes, otherwise they think I'm mad at them. She's like, because I just get straight to the point.
just why waste time when neither of us cares how your day is going, to be honest. As long as it's like average to fine, like,
Right.
great, sounds good. Moving on. So anyway,
Yeah, no nonsense. That's exactly how you are.
I think Janelle is more. I'm not trying to say she's like that. She's not like. She's just logical. She's a logical lady. I appreciate that about her.
Right?
The other thing on this topic that kind of like made me like pause or like struck a chord was when they say Kody knows what each of us needs. He's really good at catering our experiences to what we need. Whatever I needed this short road trip, Robyn needed 11 days in California, and I just was like, that so resonates with me with how people talk about God. Like,
Yeah.
when people talk about how not everyone's dealt an equal hand in every way, and like but he knows but what your journey is what you needed, and your experiences are what you're not dealt what you can't handle, and this all that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
You were given this life because you're strong enough to live it, type of thing.
Yeah. Or God gives his toughest battles or his worst battles to
His strongest
soldier,
soldier, whatever the quote is.
Facebook meme along those lines. But
Yeah.
but it just sounded so much like that to me, and I was just like, this feels unhealthy. This like putting him on this pedestal, being
Well, I mean, we could talk about it. I mean, this is kind of down the road, but it fits in with this where Mary was saying, why shouldn't I make my life all about him?
Yeah, that was tough because they talked that through. Should we go back in order and come back to that? Because they talked that through. I mean,
Yeah, let's come back to it.
yeah, we'll put a pin in that because I also had split feelings about that situation, that conversation in general.
Mhm.
We talk about the Marriage Act. I don't know if we covered the horniness between these two enough, but Robyn keeps talking about the Marriage Act, and like, yeah, that means like physical intimacy, I would imagine. I don't know.
So yeah, they're saying like they didn't sleep together. I guess probably didn't sleep together before marriage, which Kody was saying like it builds trust between him and Robyn as well as him and his own wives of waiting till marriage.
Yeah,
Like so, I guess it's showing he's looking at this as a emotional connection first and not just looking to like have sex with some other lady.
I get why that's the company line that they like to. That's a line that you just hear in that thought process. You know, the waiting thought process. I guess so. Like this harkens to me to a time of Kody's much more faith filled, um, virtuous time in his life when he like really like that. He was still all in mentally and with his heart like into the beliefs of their faith, whereas like now I don't know that he has that same thing, but like it just really was another one of those moments of like referencing God and referencing their faith and their beliefs and blah 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 that just does not happen in these last seasons. I don't know, it was just such a different,
Yeah.
it's his honeymoon too, so he's like in a bubble of like happiness and whatever, but
Yeah, and I think when you're feeling that happy and good about life, it is kind of easy though to that's when your faith is stronger because I mean your faith is tried when you're going through tough times. Like that's when you have to be more like stick to your guns of your faith, to keep your faith, where it's really easy to lose it when you're having hard times. But when you're experiencing the peaks in life, you're like, well, thank you God for this blessing, and it's very, it's very easy in those times to be faithful.
It worked out. I have this hot new wife. Like,
Yeah,
my whole deal works. I don't know. You're right. That's a good point.
right.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Just interesting. The family again. We kind of went back to the picnic. Just to load up all these kids with three moms for a picnic, and I don't know. It seems like kind of a cluster. They've forgotten wood. Logan again is the only one who's like on top of it. It seems like, or like takes his role very seriously of like making all the food for the kids and like organizing activity.
Which they were like, oh, we're really glad to have him, because he's kind of takes the role of the man of the house or whatever when Kody's not here, and like basically it's just man brings fire and meat.
I mean, they take a lot. Janelle especially was like had a lot of pride in like the way they treat their kids like adults and like give them responsibility and stuff. And I just wonder too. I wonder if like Logan, if he's got like lasting resentments and stuff like that for how much he was like dad number two of this family. Just because he was the oldest, he just got dealt a crappy hand of like extreme responsibility that Peyton doesn't have today, that like Garrison and Gabriel don't have today. Like it's just not the same.
He didn't get to be a kid as much as the rest of them, which sucks for him.
And he takes it really seriously. You can tell. So
yeah, I mean, which says a lot, about his character and stuff, that he is taking it so seriously, that he is so dependable and everything. But it does suck though, because like he deserves to have as much of a childhood as the rest of them. Like he doesn't need to be the head of a very large group of children at this early age in his life, that he didn't choose this path,
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it just made me wonder about, we don't see him on the show anymore. If he just needed some distance and stuff from how invested he had to be at such a young age in the family. It's hard because we keep cutting back and forth from this picnic to the events of the honeymoon or whatever. Because the next thing I have is the surfing experience. Which Robyn keeps saying is on her life list, and for some reason that really just like rubbed me the wrong way. It's on my life list. Like I was just like, Call it a bucket list. We all call it. Why are you calling it a life? Is this like what? Why? Why can't we just call it all the same thing? Why? No one calls it a life list.
Is that some kind of religious
I wonder
term to not say bucket list, or to make it seem more noble?
if
Or
it has more to do with their beliefs in the afterlife. Maybe. I mean, I don't know enough about it to say. But I was like, I thought the same thing. Like, is this like skirting around some kind of like the way their life doesn't end? They don't kick the bucket.
yeah,
They still are, but this is their life on Earth. I don't know. She's just such a little nerd. Like she's like, and I mean this in a loving way. She's just such a nerd,
yeah,
and she's like a really cute nerd. And Cody's a nerd,
yeah.
so it's just like these are like two adult nerds who are just like so just freaking tickled.
Geeking out together.
They're laughing and they're I recorded the how you doing exchange in the car because that was just the cringiest most. I wonder if I play it if the audio will work. Because I recorded.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Here we go.
How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? When she's courting a married man and I'm
So dorky.
How you doing? Like it was just it was just so Michael Scott. It was Michael Scott and Holly Flax is what it was. It was
It totally was.
a bit that's so dumb that they just won't stop repeating back and forth. Like
Just a couple of dorks in love there. Like,
so you got to be a little happy for him, but
yeah.
it was cringy as hell. How
Yep.
you doing?
I mean, I think everybody when they're in that
No.
deep of infatuation phase, like everybody's a little bit cringy at that point. But yeah, I probably no one maybe wants that like recorded for an audience, but
Yeah, that's the part. That's just I wonder what they would think looking back if they would feel that was nerdy. We go on our I think Zooch. Oh well, rewind a little bit. We're surfing. Kody does a handstand and puts Robyn over the top of his head. He's just really feeling himself. Robyn talks about the flexing thing when they're getting like changed into their wetsuits or whatever. About like her surviving Cody's always checking himself out in the mirror and flexing. And there's a prolonged scene where she's like doing the flexes and the thing, and I'm just like, gosh, you two are just the worst.
oh, I wrote down the comment that she said about the other wife. She's like, everything they said was true. And then I honestly was like, was that like an innuendo though?
No, I thought that too.
That was my first thought. And I don't know if it was or if she meant it that way, but I was like, are they talking about what I feel like they're talking about?
I would say, of course not, except that they have been alluding to it so much in this episode that I'm like, maybe.
Yeah.
You.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, Ewy. I was just like, also the fact
I know, that was so cringy.
he's so immature. He's just so young here. Like this, like yes, he's obviously younger than he is now, but he's just so young. Like, and he's like maybe got the mentality of like a 25-year-old or something. You know what I mean? He's just so not. He's so young. He just behaves like such a bro.
Yeah. Well, even I mean, in the last episode where they're doing the tell-all and stuff interview, where he's like, what, maybe on the Empire State Building or something that they're talking to him, and she's like, Natalie Morales asked him something, but he was like, I'm like a party boy with my girls.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that, but that was definitely like a weird. Are you a playboy? I'm like, does anybody think he's a playboy? I don't. That's not the word I would use, but
that is not how I describe him. I'm a party boy.
he's like, no, I'm a party boy. I'm having a good time with my girls or something. And I'm just there's a point where he calls them chicks, I think too, or maybe that was another episode.
Janelle calls him out for that too, to be like, chicks? We're not chicks.
Gosh. Yeah.
Women?
Like the fact that you see yourself as a party boy is interesting to me. Like I don't know that I agree with that, but hey.
I wouldn't describe him that way, but I mean, I assume he knows him better than anybody else knows him. But
exactly, it's like if that's that's great. That sounds like a good perspective to have. If you feel like your life's that good, you're just a party boy hanging out with your girls. Like sure, I don't know.
Sure.
They go on their zoo trip, and that poor tour guide is like, "Oh, you're on your honeymoon. Let's talk about courting in the animal kingdom." And there's so much discussion about the breeding cycles of these animals and like their mating habits, and he's just so pleased that they're they reflect polygamy in the animal kingdom. I was just like,
Which I have thoughts on
yeah,
this.
I do too. Let's hear them.
Because are we as humans not more evolved than that? And I am not a polygamist, so I can't. I don't know how I even want to phrase this, but it's like his argument for polygamy is, look, animals are doing it. They're not, committing to one person or one other animal. But I'm like, we are more than that though ourselves. Like, we do have the emotional ability to commit to just one person and to put in the work to make that one relationship work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we aren't the same as a rhinoceros. We're just not. We have a lot more complex emotions and thoughts than a rhinoceros does. So I'm like, I don't know if that's the best argument for why polygamy is the way to go, by just being like, look, the animals do it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that to me was so much of like, I don't know what you'd call this, like the 20-year-old dude who's like just learning, just like left his town and is learning about life and thinks he's real wise now. So he's like saying to this girl that he doesn't want a relationship with, like, hey, I just don't, monogamy is just not realistic in the animal kingdom. Just look at lions and whatever, and and in fact, sexuality is fluid, and just really like these unoriginal thoughts that they just think are so original and so profound, and like,
I have so much love to give. I want to share it with as many people as I can.
Would you maybe say love should be multiplied, not divided?
That's the one.
I don't know, it just came to me. I don't know where I heard that, but
somehow that phrase is familiar. Not sure where from.
Really rings a bell in my subconscious.
Probably from some frat bro or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, yeah, the frat boy who smokes weed for the first time and like has like revelations,
epiphanies.
Like, yeah, yep. That's
just get life now,
It's just exactly. It's like, oh, we're all connected.
It's
just that vibe to me of like, okay, buddy, we get it.
Yeah, like and maybe some of that was for the show, just to be like, we're in a zoo, let's equate it to
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's not as strong of an argument as you're making it out to be, man. Like, that's actually making me lean even more the other way.
Yeah, exactly. And the other incredibly, the topic number 2 from the zoo trip that was highlighted in my mind was he had a lot of questions about if the female animals' cycles sync up, so that the female lion, for example, has a lot of work to do during a certain specific period. And he's just chuckling to himself, and oh man, you wouldn't. Yeah, do I ever know like that? I just thought that they must. It's TMI, but they must all be like synced up.
I mean, they're all living in the same house, like probably to a certain extent there. But...
So I thought that's something I don't want to really follow in a down that like mental rabbit hole of what that is like at that house, but
because just like one night after another,
that annoying like grin he kept giving the tour. I was just like, enough. We need to move on from this.
Just stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah.
We know what you're talking. Just stop it.
This isn't subtle. Believe it or not, this is not subtle.
Right? This isn't a wink.
Mm-mm. Doesn't take
Gosh.
those dots. But
oh yeah, and I do have next that Mary talking about how, where she's like, it's no secret that I've had serious issues with Kody, and she's like, I think now we just need to really focus on each other, and that will make my relationship with the other wives better. And she says how when she's mad at Kody, she like detaches and then withdraws from the whole family.
That sincere like missing him and like revere she kind of has for him is so interesting, kind of, just because of how they're just not that. And I think he misses her too, and he seems so he calls her lover, like that's like his nickname for her. Like, I think they are close and like still have a really deep affection for each other at this phase. So that is so something I've gotten used to not seeing with them. That was like, it's kind of like, it kind of makes me understand what Mary is fighting for, because I kind of forgot. You know what I mean? When she's like still
Yeah.
she still wants him to come around, like current day I'm talking. Like she talks about he doesn't come over, she wants him to, he's welcome to, she wants to work on it, she's staying in the family, like all that stuff. It like I'm like, I see why you aren't, I see what you had that you still want to.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me more sad.
That's hard to accept that that's not the way it is anymore. I mean, when you had that for a long time, because at this point they've been married 20 years
Mhm.
and they still had really good spark and connection and stuff. That is hard then to then be like, only in the last few years has that changed.
Mhm.
Given your longer history of having it be really good, it wouldn't be just that easy to be like, okay, it's done, it's over, you know.
Yeah. And I don't think that we see it get better really. Like from here, this might be like the turning point of when it's just started to get worse. But I'm curious to see if there's any like wave or ebb and flow in their relationship in these early seasons still before we get to the point where there's just kind of not hasn't been much progress. Yeah.
Right.
Janelle talks about how for years she was detached, and like they kind of talk about how recently seeing his romantic relationship has kind of like sparked her to like kind of pursue that a little more, which I thought, I don't know why I thought that was interesting.
I did too. I wrote that down. I was like, that's, yeah.
I mean, there's not much to say, I guess. It was just like an interesting insight into Janelle.
I wonder, I mean, I just don't know how you would go into a marriage and then just be detached for years and years. Like,
I wonder if she meant by detached was like a little different, where she was just like, because they talk so much about their friendship, and I wonder if it was just that's what their relationship was this friendship, and she wasn't like looking for romantic connection so much. It was just like their partners, their buddies. You know, they like have a lot of love and respect for each other, like very to the point where Christine's kind of envious of their conversations. And I like love that about their relationship, that still seems to also kind of, I mean, COVID years have created conflict, but like they can maintain, their relationship maintains that kind of same friendship to this day. It seems like, COVID aside, you know, it's just like, to me, it's almost like the roller coaster he's been on with the other relationships. Like this is the strongest one, but it was never a high. It was never a high, and there haven't been low lows that we've seen on TV. At least it's been the slow and steady kind of like consistent thing. That's, I don't know, better. And
I think there's something to be said for that. Like, that maybe isn't something everybody would strive for in a marriage, because certainly what we're taught in the movies and books and everything, like, you want that passion, you want those highs and stuff, which inevitably do come with lows and everything. But I mean, there is strength and some kind of impressive quality to have that strong of a connection that is just really solid, even if they didn't have, you know, this romantic fairy tale moments or whatever in their relationship. It doesn't negate that their relationship is still important and strong. It's just different than maybe what you would look for.
I think it takes a specific type of person to like pursue that relationship when there hasn't been a romantic ooey gooey loving phase, but you still like say, this is the one and this is what I want to do. And maybe Janelle's divorce played a role in that. Like, she says her relationships in the past have had that factor, and she has said in the past, like, this is just the best guy I know. Kody's just the best guy I know. We talk, we are best friends. Kody says the same thing. They're best friends. They're still each other's best friend. And I wonder if that means like best friend above all else, like that's their relationship, is best friendship, and he wouldn't call the other ones his best friends, maybe. But
I kind of think, I mean, like, he said in the tell-all how he would consider them all best friends, but I do really think that, realistically speaking, Janelle is his best friend. And I think that there's a practicality to, if you're going to have a life partner, I mean, the thing is, marriage isn't just about like being in love. If you're building a life with someone, like, obviously that's a foundation everybody wants in marriage, but like you also do have to do day-to-day life with somebody, and you have to be compatible. And I think they have that a lot. I mean, they differed a bit as we've seen in recent seasons with like COVID and stuff, but for a very long time, at least, they've been very on the same page with a lot of stuff and able to tag team life really well together. And that, I mean, that's a respectable goal in marriage. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong, you know, maybe you don't have like the romance as much as someone else, but you do have a solid partnership.
I mean, you said it right at the beginning. You said that's very practical. And like, if we know anything about Janelle, is that she's very practical. So I don't know that I don't know that kind of relationship is enough to spark someone to have like a romantic commitment to somebody. Like, not everybody. Some people need. I mean, there's those phases of love that you talk about in like Psych, where it's like infatuation. Like, it doesn't sound like they really had an infatuation period. But she almost didn't need it because their friendship was so strong and real. But like other people they talk about the necessity of an infatuation period. Like, that's where you develop a bond that you then strengthen in other ways.
Right.
Like, that's kind of like the attachment period. I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then also talking about how she still wants that now she does want that romantic relationship, which was interesting.
Which I found really interesting.
Surprising, even, I would say. Like, I just feel like she wouldn't care. But this episode gave me a lot more insight into Janelle's emotions across the.
I feel like she might really want that. I don't know that it's realistic in her relationship with Kody, just given how they both seem to feel about each other. But I mean, to see others around you have that, I can see you feeling envious of that. Like, nothing against her relationship with Kody is wonderful, and really they have wonderful intellectual talks and everything. It's so solid. But like, you would look at the other relationships of him being lovey-dovey and stuff, and kind of, I think it'd be natural to want that too.
For sure. It's interesting how through all their struggles, the thing that like Mary especially comes back to is like these struggles make us better. That makes us stronger. Like, it's like almost like this is molding us and shaping us, and like it puts you through like a rock tumblr almost of like. I think she says it herself. It shaves off all your rough edges at some point. I think maybe Robyn or Mary said that.
Yeah, I think that's the analogy someone makes.
It's like it's almost like their biggest virtue is selflessness, and this is like the ultimate test of selflessness, this relationship, and like maybe that's why it's a calling to them. But like, isn't that selflessness or like humility? Like, it's like that's like the thing they're always striving for, and what they always point to when their relationships are hard with Kody or with each other. Like, this is testing us, but it's gonna make us, like, we're gonna learn and come out better. Whether or not that happens, I don't know that I've seen that result, but we see like 10% of their lives, if that, on the show. So who knows? But I don't know. That was just kind of like something that like also became clear to me, is like how much of that is like their number one virtue, the thing they strive for, and more than anything, it seems to be selflessness and humility. And this relationship is how they're gonna achieve that. It's like seems to be the logic.
Yeah. Which, good for you, not for me, but...
Yeah, the methodology is questionable. Also, should that be your number one virtue, is selflessness? I don't know that that's... If it's not natural, if it's healthy to, like, force yourself, like a monk, like, punish yourself to like...
Because, I mean, I have to believe that any kind of higher power being, God, is a loving God. I mean, I think most Christians say that anyway, that God is a loving God and everything. Well, if that's the case, I think he, she, it, whatever's out there would probably want us to enjoy our lives, though, too. You know, and I mean, not to always be putting yourself through these, like, trials just to prove that you're a good person or that you're doing well. I think that you can balance it a little bit better with maybe looking out for yourself a little bit more and not have it veer into selfishness. But
I think you can definitely be selfless without, well, also taking care of yourself and like Your
Yeah.
best self is also being selfless for the people around you. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the saying, you know, you can't pour from an empty
Yep.
cup. Like, how do you take care of other people though if you're never taking care of yourself?
I mean, is that the like summary of what happens going forward? You know what I mean? Like, is that the implosion kind of that we sort of start to see?
I think so. I think it might be the realization they all come to a little
I mean,
bit.
we've got like 15 seasons before we get there, but
It'll be a while, but we're planting seeds,
we're playing the long game here.
right?
The last like big thing I think that we haven't covered that I have here is that Christine. They talk about Christine during this honeymoon called Robyn crying. We get both their perspectives, both the Robyn's perspective and Christine's perspective on this, and saying, "Tell me you needed this. Tell me this was necessary. That you needed this long ass honeymoon." She didn't say that, but I'm paraphrasing. And Robyn says, "I did." And she said, and then Robyn's like, she said, all those days were necessary. And I go, okay, that's sad. And man, that felt like a really like B word gut punch a little bit. Like, oh, that's so sad. Like it just seemed.
Oh, honey.
Didn't it sound that way? I don't know that was. I had some more like reflection on like Christine as a person following that, but like that initially, I'm like, damn girl, like that was that was
Yeah, claws out there.
yeah, that's how they kind of get in that conversation about Kody, how Kody knows what they all need, and like Robyn needed this, and their courtship was so long and difficult, and there's kids in the mix, and to me, like the kids in the mix say maybe we shouldn't make this an 11-day honeymoon.
That would be my thought. Be like, I'm responsibility is as a parent, as the one dad. I want to be around my kids as much as possible. That's what I thought. I mean, I'm not him. I'm not Robyn. It wasn't my choice to make.
And do something alongside Robyn's kids that like also need support in this transition, and like just got thrown into this humongous.
They could have kind of taken them as a little family trip
Maybe,
or
like,
something.
a long weekend for them and a long weekend for the kids, or I don't know, something. It was just like so.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's probably, I'm sure there's more than what we saw as far as the struggles they went through. It sounded like there was quite a bit of struggle with their families. I don't know. They kind of like here and there mention it, but yeah, they just, I guess that's what Robyn needed, and Christine needed to sounded like degrade her a little bit. I don't know.
It was like putting her in her place a little bit, or just saying something that was going to make her feel better, because we know that she's not. I mean, she may say like, "Oh, I'm so happy," and we know that's not the case, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much you could say. The other thing, when I like took a step back and thought about Christine, and then we go on that shopping trip, and she tells Robyn that her weird fluffy shirt makes her look flat chested, and she's like, "What? Wouldn't you want to know? Are you sensitive about that?" And it just does on the surface sound so shitty. It sounds so mean and like a bully almost. You could say that shirt. I don't think that shirt really flatters you without being like, it makes you look flat. What? Are you sensitive? Like, it was just so like.
There's a better way to say it than what
It was so hard.
was said.
But then you think about Christine, and you think about some of Christine's kids and the way they operate, and I'm just kind of thinking like bluntness and like lack of like social yeah, that's a good word for it, is kind of a package deal in some cases with like everyone has different social cues and strengths and stuff, and some people have, when you have more of a struggle with like understanding empathy and like other people's how you sound and how the reaction is and blah blah blah, like that's like a set of skills that falls, if you struggle with that, kind of fall on like somewhere on that spectrum, and like a lot of people are it's not even like a disability that I'm trying to say. It's just like it's just like strengths and weaknesses that different people have, and we categorize them.
It's a social spectrum, really, of people who are maybe better or more empathetic on one side versus not.
Like a blind spot, just like a blind spot.
Yeah. I mean, and we all have. I mean, Yeah, I know. I get exactly what you're saying. Like there are,
Just, yeah.
and where I've said things before, where I'm like, I'm a very empathetic person, and watching like Kody react to something and then not saying the thing that I would say to be like empathetic to the situation. I'm like, it's so easy. Why are you getting this? But I'm like, but not everybody's brain works that way, and I have my own weaknesses in different ways. Right. Everybody's got something.
So yeah, I mean, just thinking, reflecting on like her kids and stuff. I was like, I think that because that strength is like genetic, that like that like sort of like blind spot tends to be genetic. So I was like, that would make
I think
sense.
it's kind of a mix, though. I think it is like a mix of nature and nurture.
The chicken or the egg. Their kids are raised by her who has this like bluntness and like whatever. So like, it just might be a social skill that they just pick up, or not. You know, I don't know. It just kind of occurred to me. I can't believe, I don't like really believe that she meant to sound mean and shitty, but it sounded so.
I don't think so, because she's not like a mean-spirited person. I mean, she's made comments and stuff before that are maybe a little sassy, or maybe like the passive-aggressive comments and stuff, which we're all human. We've all made shitty comments without being a shitty person. Like,
No,
so
I don't think she's a shitty.
she's dealing with a lot of emotions and stuff, and you're not going to always be like just perfect and super tactful. But yeah, I mean, her like not realizing like, hey, that's like kind of insulting to her. You know, like she felt offended by you making a comment about
in her mind
making her look flat.
She's like, I'm just telling you what I would want to know. Like, there's no like threshold of like
someone else might not want to know it that way.
Someone like Robyn, who's clearly like quite a sensitive person, probably not the way you deliver information about how you feel about the way they look. In Robyn, she's kind of playing it off, joking like, "Oh, all my insecurities are just one by one, just picking me up," and she's like kind of joking, but I kind of feel like she meant that.
I'm like, it was joking, but I also feel like not joking.
On the other end of that, where you're so uncomfortable with being direct with somebody that you're like, you make a joke about it, but you mean it, and you just want them to understand, but like you're just, all my insecurity, I mean, I don't know. I was just thinking about that. I just don't believe. I think Christine means well. Maybe it has to do with how she's going through a lot at this time. She just had the baby.
I think it's probably a combination. Yeah.
But I don't know. Just not that that's the case. Just an interesting like consideration I had to make sense of that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One other thing I had, which I mean, I'm sure he'll make this comment more than once throughout this show. Kody saying how he's really enigmatic, and how loving one wife is really not different from loving more than one child.
Oh yeah,
and I'm just like, I don't know if, and I mean, I will say this forever. I always will think this, that he's had genuine love and everything for each wife. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that he's been truly in love until Robyn. So I think it's really easy to be like, I love them all. It's so easy. But being in love versus loving are two different things.
I disagree a little bit. I feel that he and Mary are in love at this time. I think that.
Yes. I don't think they're at that same level, though. And I don't think they ever have been. I think it's like him is in love with Mary. Him with Robyn is like soulmate level for them, in my opinion.
It's hard to say because we didn't see this phase of their relationship. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not confident enough to like say that. I think, yeah, it doesn't. The love, like saying it's not different than loving your kids and loving your spouse. Like, sure, if we're just calling it love, like blanket statement, you love a lot of people. It's not just about love and whether or not you can love multiple people. Like we all, I hope, can love multiple people. Sorry, Tucker.
Well, we do. I mean, you love multiple relatives. You love multiple friends.
Like, I just think that's simplifying it way too much. It's love multiple people. It's not about the ability to love multiple people. It's about the ability to have like healthy, successful marriage relationships that like most people can't do well. Mm-hmm. and you like choose to basically like make that decision to it's commitment to one person almost more than like, yes, like love is there. I sure hope.
But again, it's that life partnership. Yeah. It's doing life together.
Yeah.
And then
doing it well.
It's really easy to have many friends that you love and rotate spending time with.
Mm-hmm.
It's much different to choose one person, or four, but to choose one person really to be exclusive moving forward with of tag teaming life.
To care for kids, to be parents, to be
own home, own property and stuff together.
Equally give yourself to that person as they give to you. Because when you're one husband and 4 wives, that equation simply doesn't work. Like, he can't give all of himself to one person, but they all give all themselves to him. It's just...
Well, that was one other thing I wrote, though, that they were talking about him facing, like, emotional landmines from each one when he comes home. Mm-hmm. And I was like, the fact, though, that one person, this Kody, I'm like, you don't have enough time and energy, though, to spend, like, that much for 4 different people. Like, you are only one person. Like, he does still need time to fill his own cup.
Yeah.
And I don't know that he ever really gets that. Like, we've talked about that he doesn't, like, have that time to do self-reflection and growth. Like, because you are just throwing yourself to each situation as it comes. And I just, like, I feel like your wires would be fried.
It totally goes back. It's the same thing with the kids, too. How he can't give all of himself to... Not that you need to... I don't know that I would say that you need to give all of yourself to your kids, but, like, I don't know that he can be the parent he even wants to be to 18 kids. But his whole, like, oversimplification of the logic of love should be multiplied, not divided. Yeah, but love... I don't think love is finite. I think you can love as many... You can love and as many people as you want to and are able to and, like, feel connected to. I don't think there's really a limit to that. Mm-hmm. But you're a human being and your time is finite. Mm-hmm. And your ability to care for yourself and other people is finite. To provide care.
It's the quality versus quantity thing.
Exactly. It just, it didn't seem like we stopped to think about that after we had 8 kids. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of, I guess, where we leave off this season. Right?
Yeah, I think it was a great episode to leave off. Like, it gave us a lot to chew on.
Mm-hmm. And we got, like, a teaser. We pick up in the next episode with another special. And the Browns are being investigated for, is it bigamy? Is that what they called it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be interesting. What little drama to pick up the season with. Season 2.
Right.
I guess first, though, we've got a couple of specials that we're kind of trying to cook up. I guess if anybody listening also wants to read Under the Banner of Heaven, we both officially have a copy, and we're going to try to do an episode or 2 maybe about that. Book club. In preparation.
I'm very excited. I'm probably going to start it tonight, honestly.
I'm excited too. I'm going to need to set myself some goals because it's kind of a thick. It's thick, and there are some points that are very like historically driven. So, like, need some breaks from that.
That'll be really fun to get into, I think.
If anybody wants to read that, we'll maybe set up a timeline once we both get into it and kind of have an idea of what it'll take for us to finish those. In preparation for I think it's the FX special that's coming out, the dramatized TV version of Under the Banner of Heaven starring Andrew Garfield is coming out soon. So it's a book about... It's a true crime, so that kind of scratches another itch that a lot of people have, I know.
Everybody loves a good true crime podcast, so...
We went in a really niche direction with this show and made it a rewatch show about a reality TV show on a, I don't know, C network. Like, not at the top of, like, popularity of what's the hot button issues of the day. But true crime, everybody can dig it now. So that'll be good.
Right. So book lovers, true crime lovers, TV lovers, everybody can tune into that.
Book
So.
club lovers, book discussion. Would love some interaction from you guys. I know someone's listening. We're getting downloads. If you want to give us an email at podlygamistpod@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can message us there, comment on a post. We'd love to hear if you're going to join the book club. I'll put a post out there too. Just thought of that. I should do that for sure.
Yeah, that's
if you want to join the book club, if you have any thoughts on the book, we'd love to hear them. And we might be working on something that a special on parasocial relationships as well coming up. We gotta still kind of figure out the logistics there, but yeah, I think we've got some good stuff coming up.